So I just had a very interesting conversation with a potential home seller right here in this open house in Costa Mesa. He asked me, and he was kind of had that look on his face. He said, so if you were to also represent the buyer when you were listing my house, how much would you cut my commission? I smiled and said, that would never ever happen. Not a chance. He kind of turned his head to the side. He said, what do you mean? And I said, there would literally be zero chance that I would ever represent a buyer on your house if you had already hired me to be your representative to sell it. And he kind of paused for a second. He said, well, I've talked to a couple of other agents and they told me that they would absolutely bring buyers in and it might be the quickest and easiest way to do it. And I smiled and I said, yeah, for them. Here's the thing. A great real estate agent will never, ever, ever represent a buyer on a house that he's already got a contractual arrangement with a seller. In legal parlance, this is called dual agency. In real estate parlance, it's called double ending. Basically means you're doing both sides of the transaction. Now, interestingly, here in California, it's actually legal as long as you get everybody to sign off on it and approves what's going on. But in a lot of other states, it's actually not legal. You can't do both sides of it. Now, here's the quiet secret in the real estate industry that nobody really talks about. If you were to walk into any real estate office here in Orange County, right here at the beginning of December when I'm filming this, and they were talking about November production numbers, you'd have, who sold the most listings, who sold the most buyers, who took the most listings, and all that kind of celebration. And then there'd be a special thing where they'll be like, and Tom double-ended 4 deals this month, and everybody would go absolutely nuts. Now, why in the real estate office would they go nuts? Would they go nuts because Tom's 4 clients had their interests zealously defended? No, of course not. They're going nuts because on those 4 deals, Tom brought more revenue into the brokerage. There are a couple of reasons why this is a very bad idea, and let me explain them to you. Reason number 1, divided loyalty. The listing agreement is an employment contract between the owner of the home and the marketing and advertising representative. It specifically obligates them to fiduciarily represent the interests of the home sellers. That means they need to advocate for the home seller's interests. The buyer, on the other hand, has the opposite interests. It's impossible to wear those 2 hats. At one point or another, the loyalty will have to be divided, either with the seller compromising the representation of the buyer, or with the buyer compromising the contract already signed with the seller. As an analogy, let's say that you're in a lawsuit and you're suing somebody. What would you do if you found out that your attorney was also representing the plaintiff's side? And you brought this up to them and they explained, no, hold on a second. I know this whole thing very well. I know the case. It'll be a lot less complicated. It'll get done much quicker for all of us. Would you accept that? Absolutely not. Well, if you're involved in an $800,000 transaction, why is it any different? The reality is, it's not. Reason number 2 is there are different jobs. The listing agent is the marketing and advertising representative. The listing contract entails all the efforts that that marketing and advertising representative is going to do on the behalf of the home seller. The buyer's agent, on the other hand, their job is to help the buyer find and purchase the right house. It's 2 different jobs. Representing somebody to help them buy a house and marketing and advertising a house are 2 different things. The employment agreement, the listing agreement, doesn't specify doing 2 jobs. It specifies doing 1. Reason number 3 is the difference between a coach and a referee. Everybody understands this analogy. A coach is on his team's side. Their job is to encourage, advise, strategize, anything they can do to pursue their team's best interests. That's essentially what a listing agent does. And that's also what the buyer's agent should do. That's the coach for the buyer and the coach for the listing agent. But if one person is going to try to play both roles, they legally and ethically, let alone practically, can't do both. So what happens, and this is literally the terms of the law here in the state of California, is that they go from being a coach to a referee. Now, a referee doesn't pick sides. A referee doesn't give insights and advice and favor one team to the other. A referee just makes sure that everything is done fairly. Now, that does sound interesting to have somebody overlooking and making sure things are fair, but that's what the laws are for, right? Here's another way to look at it. This house here that I'm holding an open house at, it's listed for just over $800,000. And on a typical transaction of this value, there's between $40,000 and $80,000 that is potentially on the table that'll slide one way or another. Now, if you think about this, if you've got $40,000 to $80,000 on the table, do you want a referee making sure that everybody has a chance at it? Or do you want a coach that's helping you, to your advantage, get as much of that $40,000 to $80,000 on your side of the table as possible? I think when you look at it that way, it becomes much clearer. So I explained this to the guy as he walked out, and he was kind of shaking his head, and he goes, you know, that's actually really good. I would never want a listing agent to tell me that they brought a buyer, because they're actually looking out for themselves rather than me. I smiled and I said, you know what, Bob? You're absolutely right. Now, if you'd like to contact me for some of my other ideas about how to be your marketing and advertising representative should you decide to sell a house, or to represent you as a buyer, you can call me. My number is 949-413-2371. You can also email me, michael@housamgroup.com, or move your cursor or click on the screen. There's a little button right above me here with an I. If you click on that, that will take you to my website. There's more information there and ways to contact me as well. Also, please follow this channel. Every day or two or three, I put up a new video with advice to home buyers, home sellers, and borrowers, as well as every other week I do a marketplace update on what's going on here in the marketplace in Orange County. Thanks so much and have a great day.